Okay, this morning I'm going to hopefully replace the cam position sensor, which is basically the distributor pickup on my 99 Dakota RT, which is 360 factory. And as you can see there's my truck, and there's the code there. Hopefully you can see that. Put the scanner on it, P0340 camshaft position sensor circuit. Came on the other day. Now it's kind of ironic how it came on shortly after I did the put a new distributor cap on it and rotor. Of course, mine was a little rusted. The shaft was rusted, so I had to clean some of the surface rust off the shaft to get the cap back on. So maybe that some of that got on this pickup area here. I'm not sure. I'm going to check it out. Bought this online, and they don't tell you where they're made, but this one wasn't made here, but it was pretty inexpensive. This here just has the pickup and the connector, and I'm going to go ahead and replace this today, and it shouldn't be too bad. I'm going to videotape it for you, and as I like to do. So you want to keep this away from the battery. Don't put your pickup near electrical currents, high electrical currents anyway. I think that's detrimental, and probably what you're going to need is either one of three tools here to get into these bolts that hold down the distributor cap, because this piece is in the distributor. I've already taken mine off a couple weeks ago, so hopefully it won't be that bad. So you may need this. This is a 9/32 socket. And what I did was I taped up my swivel, because the swivel has a tendency to be too much swivel and it flops all over. So you can use this as well to get down in here. I think I need to, because when you try and use a regular long screwdriver, you get at this angle here, and sometimes if you don't, you can't get enough force, and you're at an angle and it wants to strip that Phillips head, which happened to me when I first took it off. I think these, now see this one here I put on tight, and I can't get it off with this, so I'm gonna have to use the or you can use a smaller 6-inch, which gets you a little bit better angle, because you're not hitting the top of the firewall. And actually it looks like I can turn this one with this shorter screwdriver. So we'll take this bolt loose here, and that might just be easier with the socket, but let's see, I should be able to get this out relatively quick. And we'll go to the other side, and like I said, I replaced the distributor cap and in the rotor button, because looks like this one's loose, because that had never been done on this truck before. Of course, I think they had replaced the spark plug wires. Look pretty good. And I did the as a tune-up, I did replaced all of the spark plugs, which are pretty easy to get to on these 360s and 318s, which is the 5.2, and then the 360s a 5.9 liter. And I also had to replace these these Mopar Performance valve covers were already on the truck. So was this air box, or cold air, as they call it, cold air. I call it a hot air intake. And they were leaking pretty bad, so I bought these. These were Mr. Gasket. They're blue. But what I also did was he used the factory bolts, which with the way they're designed to hold these valve cover bolts. These here, they just weren't designed properly to put the right pressure on the valve cover, so I replaced those with ARP which they look nice, and they actually spread the pressure out evenly on the valve cover, which helped it. And it's now you can see down there, all of the, it used to be wet on top of the exhaust manifold. Now it's dry. So so that was another project that I did last year, and because they were leaking really bad. And so let's go over to this side, and let's see if I can get some light on the subject here. Here we go. Let's see if I can get this light somewhere where I can, not sure that I can. I just have to hold it. Pretty hard to get light into these things. I think that's the connector there for the, it's probably about as good as I'm going to get light in there. You can kind of see this down here. This is where I'm getting to. Right in here. There we go. I was able to get this one loose with this shorter screwdriver as well. But again, if yours is a little tight, you can use that swivel setup that I showed you. And this even here is kind of hard to do with the tips of your fingers. I think when this cap had been on there a long time, when it was this truck sat for a while, and I think it was outdoors and kind of in the woods, maybe in a carport. But these were kind of rusty when I initially took them out, and they were kind of hard to get to. And I think I had to use that socket setup. But I put when I took it apart, I put some lithium grease on the cap, so I could get, if I ever had to get the bolts off, I could get them off. And it looks like that worked out, because I did have to take it loose. Now, any luck, I'll be able to get that cap off without taking the wires loose and getting it out of the way. I'm not 100% certain that's going to happen. You've got hoses here. You want to be careful. There's a small vacuum hose here, of course, little tiny. They get very brittle over the years, and so you want to make sure that you don't break that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get the cap off and out of the way with the spark plug wires on it. And let's see. So not to may have to take some of these spark plug wires off to get this cap out. Yeah, because it, as you can see, it doesn't want to come out with all the wires on. It doesn't want to get it. I don't think there's enough slack in the wires to get it out of the way enough to where you can get access to the plate. Well, there we go. Maybe see, it just kind of flopped over. Let's check out the other side. Oh. Now, I can see it there. I just don't think I'm going to be able to get access to I don't think I'm going to have access to in there without taking the cap loose. You can see it. There's the plate. And it looks like all you got to do is take the rotor off. It looks like the bolts that hold the plate on are the bolts that are in the in this distributor cap. So, but it's I don't know. You might want to mark your wires, and I may have to pull the wires off to get in there, because we'll pull half of them off, because this looks like it's going to get in the way. I think I'm going to have to pull this side of the wires loose which I should have done before I took the cap loose because it's going to be harder to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my phone, take a picture of these wires, and I can take a look at the picture. That way I don't have to mark them. I can just look at the picture to see how they go back on. If my phone will cooperate. So we'll just take a picture of the wires. Let's see. Better view here. Okay, that should be good enough. I can reference those pictures when I go to put these wires back on. Thought I could get to this stuff without taking these wires loose, but it's not going to happen. So I'll kind of keep them in place about where they go. This one goes on the edge here. This one goes in the center next to it. Put that one there. This one will just lay straight down. And this one's going to be the longest, so that one should be easy to figure out. So we'll pull those off. Then we're going to need to pull this one off. And pull that one off as well. Yeah, that one's the longest of the bunch. As you can see, that one's the longest. So, longest one to the back, longest side. And this should be able to push out of the way here. If I could get my voice. We'll push that out of the way over there, and we should have good access, if you can see that, to the distributor. Pull the cap off, which I put a little lube on that. When I put it on, I might put a little more on. You can see the cap was kind of rusty. If you can see in there. It's early in the morning, so we'll set this cap out of the way here. And the plate actually is just floating. So you just pull the plate, it just comes right up. And I've got the wires. Of course, I've got some pine straw down here too. Leftover pine straw. And no, looks like the wire wants to, I don't know where that connection is. Probably going to be somewhere where you can't get at it. And based on this 3-prong connector, I'd say that if I was a gambling man, I'd say that, which is still very hard to get into, that's probably the connector there. And that's why it won't come out. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So this connector's Looks like you press in here. And see if I can get this off. Might have to use a screwdriver. Not sure if it's press in or press. Let's see. There's a little catch inside there, so I guess you press down. Yeah, and press down, of course. So I think what I'm going to do is use this. This thing is in a horrible place. Of course, I've got this in the way, so let's move that out of the way a little bit. Looks like you press this down. Doesn't look like it wants to press at all. Huh. Now, as usual, something that's supposed to be somewhat easy is not quite so easy. So I think I'm going to have to get some needle nose pliers. Okay, here we go. I'm having difficulties getting this plug unplugged because it's been on here for a long time and it's kind of tight. So I had to try and get some other tools. Basically a needle nose set of pliers to hold the back side of the clip, and then with a screwdriver you can kind of push down. Because you got to push down, I believe, push down on that clip. And somehow, I'll see, it looks like it clips to the side as well. I didn't see any clips on the new ones on the side. You know, maybe there is. So I'm not sure how the heck you're supposed to do that. Looks like it's coming out. Got it. There we go. Trying to get this thing out of here. I don't know if this... I can feel it. I hope I took the right one apart. There's another one down here now. Oh my God, are you kidding me? mean, this looks like the cable. That felt like the cable. That doesn't necessarily mean it is. So I got lucky. I could actually see what I was doing.
It's buried, man. You can't even see anything.
No, you can't. And it's hung on the other one. There we go. It probably. All right, here I'm back at it. I've tried a couple different methods that didn't seem to. You can see I've been sanding on, and it's still pretty rusty. So I've got some wet sandpaper that bends pretty easy that I had left over from when I painted this truck, and I guess I think I need to make a smaller piece. Maybe I'll just fold it over. I'm going to use some wet sandpaper because it bends easy, and this is a 220 grit, and see if I can get some more of this rust off, because that is a magnetic sensor, and rust will affect how it picks up. And it's kind of ironic how the truck had been running fine for a year and a half ago when I bought it, and then I put a new distributor cap on it, as you saw. And you know, speaking of new distributor caps, you can see these. I didn't go with the aluminum prongs. You can buy this that's it's either brass or copper. I think these are brass that are much better. The aluminum conducts electricity really well, but they wear out real quick. And I saw another fellow that said, you know, you could clean them off, but if they're really pitted, you really can't. And you'll widen the gap from the rotor to the contact in the distributor cap, and then it won't. You'll start getting it'll run rough. So just get you a good cap. I got this one off, you know, online, or you could probably get it at a parts store. I got it online because it was, you know, it's where I buy a lot of my stuff. It's just easier that way instead of hunting around different parts stores, and you can get a better deal. And so yeah, so I replaced that in the you know, in that as well, and everything was fine. And it may have been that I disturbed it because I had to sand the shaft to get the new cap on because it was so rusty, and that may have been what caused the sensor to malfunction. Maybe some rust got on there on that pickup. You can see how rusty this. You can see how rusty the sandpaper is. Wow, that's a lot of sanding. It's kind of hard to believe it's actually that rusty. Of course, if the distributor was out, it'd be much easier, but it's not out. So yeah, just put the stuff in the Magnum and deal with it another day. This freaking shaft is so rusty, it's unbelievable. This is what happens when you store your vehicles in the woods for 5 years. This is not the easiest spot to get in here. I'm having a hard time believing it's this rusty. I mean, I hit it with the Scotch-Brite, then I hit it with another, for one of those foam type sandpaper blocks, and that didn't work as well. It worked okay, but it just didn't do much. And now this is the third attempt with sandpaper. Now it looks like it's getting better. Yeah, it's getting better. That's a little rough. Now I'm going to take this 600 grit and I'm going to see if I can smooth it back up. This is almost like prepping a car for paint. You start with 220, go to 400, and then sometimes 600. I painted this truck in the driveway. Of course, I had it perfect, and then it right as I was halfway through spraying to clear it, decided to have one cell right over the house in the whole state of Georgia, and it rained on it and ruined it. Those were not good days, but it does happen in the shade tree world, and it fish-eyed pretty bad, but the truck had the clear coat that was standing up on it, both the hood, wherever it had been parked. It was really bad, so it'll work for now until I can get to a point where I can really do a fine tune on the. I didn't do any body work on it. I just prepped it, put some of that poly sealant on it, blended it in. I'll try and show you a little bit as I get through with this madness here. So you can see how rusty that is yet. Wipe it off a little bit. It feels pretty good now. It feels pretty nice and smooth after that 600. That's looking pretty good. I'm getting winded here, as you can tell. Maybe a little bit more with the 600. I see a little bit of scratches in it. Let me try it this way, so use my other arm. Maybe I can get in here and get a shot of this. Just putting the sandpaper around the shaft and kind of going around in a circular. Like I said, I had to do this before. Cap came off real hard. I mean, the rotor button was hard to get off because it was kind of rusted on, and the new one wouldn't even go on. I had to sand it. Little did I know that there was all that rust down on the shaft, and I didn't know at the time that the pickup cam sensor pickup, distributor plate pickup, whatever you want to call it, was below it, or I would have probably sanded this at the time. Alright, that looks pretty good. You can see down at the bottom all the shavings, and then of course coming off on the sandpaper as well. That was
no, so there was no code.
There you go, self-fixing.
It just sounded a little weird to me, you know?
Yeah, some hot shot in it and run it. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Boy, not easy to get to. I'm gonna go get an air tank and blow that out. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I had to go down and hook up my air compressor so I could I wanted to blow this stuff out of here before I put it all back together. It only made sense, so you can see how much dust just blew out of it. That looks pretty good. a good blowout. Shaft looks kind of nice and shiny now. I hope it's all the way around shiny. I can't see it, but it looks pretty good. It's got to be a lot better than it was. Okay, let's dust this off one more time. And now we can attempt to put the new plate in. And it's going to go like this. Dust off of it, and wire's going to run over to that side. Hopefully any minute my compressor will turn off so you can hear me. Actually, I see what spins now. That shaft doesn't even matter. Alright. Okay, taking forever. I was having problems with that too, of course. Now that I see where the pickup picks up, doesn't even have anything to do with all the rust. I see the pickup plate as it's that half moon plate there. And if I can get a tool here, I'll point to it. Gosh, I can't believe I didn't. Alright. To me, this looks like the pickup plate here, and it looks like it's fine. It's not dirty or anything, but I am gonna make sure that, of course, get this out of the way before I ruin it. And I'm gonna stick this rag in, try and make sure there's no dust on the outside edge of it. Stick it down in here. But I didn't want to leave all that rust in there anyway. Not that it would have had to been perfect, but it's never a good thing to have all that rust on the shaft. But since I did sand in here, and I sanded before when I put the cap on because I had to, I want to make sure that there's no residual dust on this plate. So we'll just see if we can get in here with this, and I know I can feel it, so I know I'm touching it. It's right there. And then on the outside is here. Right in here. Okay. Alright, everything looks clean now. No rust, no dust. I blew it out. And so that should be good there. And I even see a little white dust inside here. Well, inside here you can see there's a little dust. I'm not sure if it matters. I'm going to clean that out. Just lightly run it in there. That did it. And I'm guessing it goes this way. With the sensor down. Here, I'll get a shot of this. I don't really want the wire to fall down. Stick the wire over this way. That's where the connection is, and then this goes down here like this. It's like that. It can only go in one way. Of course, it's got a notch in it. You can see that where the light go. Once you get it in the notch, so the holes line up. Yeah, you can see your holes lined up. All right, so that looks good. And of course, you can see the rust in there. No problem. Again, don't forget to put your let's see, goes on this way. Don't forget to put your cap back on before you put it all back together. That wouldn't be good. Since it's sanded off nice and clean, it fit right down on it. And so the wire coming off is hello.
Hello. Sorry to bother you. Doing okay today?
Okay, here we go, back again. I've got the plate put on, got the cap, rotor button put back on, got it all cleaned out. The next step is to try and get this connected back up. I don't know how I got this light in there. Move this out of the way. Find what I did with my flashlight so I can see what I'm doing here. And let's see. Alright, so there's the connection there. And make sure you don't get it hung on that. And let's see, I'm guessing it goes in this way. You want to make sure that your fittings are not rusted as well, and these look like they're in good shape. That seal's in good shape. And then this just hopefully is going to be the right piece. Yep. That's supposed to be the right piece anyway. Let's see. You never can tell with this aftermarket stuff. Let's just hope that it is. I'd be very disappointed if it didn't work. There it goes. very tight. Very tight. It's still not in all the way. I tell you, they really got a lot of cables and hoses and stuff in the way. They didn't design cars to be videotaped. I'm going to try and get these pliers. Maybe if I opened it up one. I don't know. Just trying to get the pliers on here, so. There we go. I think that got it. Everything still looks good. Yep, it's seated in there. You can see it. It's all the way in. Okay. All right. Not so bad. And then we'll make sure that its plate's still seated properly. Where I didn't move. Can't really see it from the side. Let's lay that there. Make sure the wire's not it moved a little bit somehow. There we go. Cable wires out of the way. Let's get this cap. It's gotta get lined up with those holes. And you're putting a new cap on. If you're doing this, I'm hoping you're gonna install a new, you know, rotor button and cap, because it'll be a smart thing to do. And now let's get this shorter screwdriver. See if we can get one of these started. Well, how about that? So let's just leave that. Looks like it went in. Yep. Let's go to the other side. Let's get this out of there. Okay, this one you can't, much harder to see. The screwdriver. Definitely harder to see and harder to get at. And hard to tell if it's seated properly. Doesn't look like it is. There we go. These wires out of the way. And feels good. Let's see if we can get this started. And see if I can. There we go. There we go. That's definitely going in nice. Now I put a little grease on these before I put the distributor cap in. I put a little lithium grease on these bolts because they were, you know, dry. And when they're dry, they go in kind of tight. And now they appear to be going in real nice and easy the second time. And I can actually get them tight. That's good. Let's go back and retighten this side. Just make sure your wires, I can see it back there, it's not pinched. And I don't want to over tighten it because you never know if this was going to work or not. I might have to take it back off. And now we got to hook our wires back up, and we should have one long one which goes here, short one which went here, and then I placed this closest one it looks like my coil wire fell off because I don't remember taking it off. This one went here. Looks like my coil wire fell off, so, or actually, I think this is the coil wire. It is. I don't think I took the coil wire off. That one went there. This wire went here. And this was the last one, which was the closest to me, which went in here. Make sure they're all pushed down tight. You never know, I was moving that cap around quite a bit. Okay, it's in, it's tight. And I don't see anything. Any of my wires are still in good position. I zip tied them up so they wouldn't fall in the manifold. Somebody else put that protective covering on them, which I do have some, and I might redo at some point. But today I just want to see if I can get this finished. Well, now the true test is to start it. Now, you may or may not have wanted to, you know, take your battery cables loose. I don't think probably with this you would need to, but you know, if you're worried about, you know, wires touching, you can undo the battery. This place is a junkyard, sorry about that. Keys, and now is the true test. Let's see if it still runs. Started right up. No check engine light. That's a great day, isn't it? Oh, very nice. Good oil pressure. You can see my truck's got 382,000 miles. And I did the video on the rear speakers on this truck, and I did the front speakers as well. And you can use the same concept on the back speakers. You just have to, there's a bolt here, there's a bolt here, and then there's a bolt behind this plate handle. And there's a screw here, and then there's a screw here to take the door panel loose, and then you lift the panel off, and you've got to take, there's a white plug inside, there's a white cable that goes over to the door lock that you got to get in there with a screwdriver, because it's clipped over, and you've got to push it up and then pull it out so you can get the door panel off. And if you watch my rear speaker video, I'll show you how to use the factory old speaker, cut the lip off, and use it to install your new speakers. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. You can see it sounds real good. Need to well, might take it to a car show, and I'll maybe going to a car show in a minute, so I may just leave that. But yeah, you can see, you know, the spark plugs are all pretty easy to get to on this truck, and I'm going to call that a win-win. And a couple of the things I did to the truck was this steering wheel wrap, and this took me a couple hours to do, but you can see it turned out really nice because the steering wheel itself was kind of chewed up on the top here. And you buy one of these online. I think I paid $7.99 for this on the online store, and comes with a, you know, thread, and you just got to take your time. And these Dakotas have a skinny steering wheel as opposed to the newer trucks, a little bit newer, that they started making them a little bit fatter. So I had to pull this seam, and you can still see it's still kind of loose. And usually the seam has about a 1/4 of an inch gap, and I pulled this seam all the way tight, and that looks really good. Turned out really nice. It takes a couple hours. If you're going to do it, you got to be patient. Make sure it's not hot out, because it's going to take you a couple hours to do that. But it's well worth the effort. You know, you start to seam at the bottom, and yeah, it turned out real nice. So then of course here's where you know, that paint job went bad. It rained on it, and I sanded this black off because it was all cracked. So I took 36 grit and I sanded it off, and it just I was really upset that it rained on me. I couldn't believe it. This area here is known for strange things happening, so don't know if there's some kind of paranormal something going on. But anyway, I'll have to redo that. This kind of looks like a crackle finish up here. As you can see, it got fish-eyed. I had everything perfect, but actually, there's actually primer underneath here. In the light, you can see it, but in the sun, it looks really good. I put primer before I painted it and cleared it, and then I blended it in here. And make sure I don't have any tools laying around. Well, that's right, this came off. This always slips off. And yeah, so you can see all the fish eyes on the hood, because after I painted it the next day, I had to wait, and I had to wipe it down, and it got contaminated. But I had the top was perfect. All this was, I painted this, all this, and you can see, of course, this blend didn't work well, but actually there's primer all the way down here. Kind of burned through a little bit here when I mean, I guess I could have just painted this whole thing, but it's like, again, I sanded it. I mean, this was all white. You know how the white paint, the white clear coat was standing up. It was like 36 grit sandpaper. And then I ran out of clear on the hood, as you can see, because the hood's kind of dry, a little bit dry in certain areas. I started running out of clear, but it looks like some of it might still be, but I didn't intend this to be a permanent thing. It was just to make the truck look, before it looked horrible, and now it looks presentable. It's a 10-footer. You know, you stand back, 10 feet. Make sure I don't fall off here, and it looks good. I could probably buff it out and make it a little better. The top, there's nothing I can do with that except fix it. And I didn't see, there was a lot of little dents and stuff in the hood that I didn't take out. This one here. But when I do the finish, because I am going to finish this truck and repaint it, I've already got new decals, and I'll do everything correct. And I may do some video on that. Of course, everybody's seen probably 100,000 TV shows and whatnot with body work on them, so there's no mystery there. But anyway, that project worked well, and I hope that you get some tips out of that. I'm gonna have probably edited out the sanding of the shaft, because I don't think you necessarily need to do that now that I realized that that's not where the pickup is. It's down below on that little half moon piece that I showed you. And but I probably would have done that anyway, because it just doesn't look good, and it's not good to have all that rust inside the distributor. So I probably would have sanded it anyway. I may just edit and leave some of it in. So I hope that helps you out. And if you run into that code, and hopefully that helps you to be able to tackle that yourself. There was one other thing that I wanted to point out on my truck that I did myself. It's not worthy of a whole new video on what I did with there we go. I did buy the trailer hitch online. I put it on myself. Probably be easier with two hands, but this RT did not come with a trailer hitch, and I installed that Reese hitch on it. I bought it online, and it was a direct bolt up. I didn't have to change anything, alter anything. I didn't have to cut any brackets. And then there's a wiring harness too that you can go with it, that plugs directly into the factory wiring harness. And so you have your 4-prong harness for the lights and stuff. It plugs right into the lights. Really nice. You unplug it, you put their piece in, and you plug the factory stuff back together, and it works out really nice. You can get those online. I think I got that one at the Big A store, but probably others got it as well. But it was one thing I wanted to point out that I did on my truck, and I don't know if I can get in there or not. Yeah, get this towel. And that is, I put, when I got the truck, the rear shocks were leaking, and it was sagging in the back. And I eventually might want to just use it for a little bit of towing. And it had already started to flatten out the leaf springs. They're already the leaf springs are starting to sag. And so what I wanted to do, which I couldn't find, was I wanted to put air shocks on it. Actually, there's a kit that you can buy to put bags on it back here. You hook it to the frame. It's a couple $100. It looked pretty, okay. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, hey, why don't I just look for air shocks? And I couldn't find any for this truck. And turns out, I just took a chance. I saw these are actually AC Delco and shocks, and I can't remember what application. I think they were some kind of Chevy application, but they looked like they had the correct fittings, to bolt it on the bottom and the top, which I can't see it right here. Maybe if I can get closer. I really can't get up in there, but you can see the other side as well. So I think it says AC Delco on the other side. But they bolted right up, and the fittings and everything work good. They're up here, and I ran the lines. You can see the line coming out, goes down the frame, both sides, and comes out back there, across the back of the frame, and then through. And there's a hole in the bumper already that you can just, put the fill right in. And to do it right, if you want to do it right, where it actually helps for handling, you use 2 separate lines to fill the shocks, and that way the shocks don't, when you go into a turn and the truck pushes down on one shock, which creates pressure, which pushes the air out of the shock and into the other shock, and actually pushes that shock out. They kind of work against each other, and it's best to use 2. I didn't do that on this one. I just used 1 line because it's not a track car, so 1 was enough. But if you've got a hot rod, that's what you need to do. You need to use 2 separate fill lines. Also, I wish I had filmed a video as well. I had to put a hub, and I had to rebuild this caliper. I think it was actually the other side. And then I bought these online. These are drilled slotted with ceramic pads in the same store. Really nice setup, and it worked really well. Very inexpensive on these trucks. And actually that clip right there is off. And well, they're supposed to be there. clip. That clip was supposed to be there. These brake pads, you know, that are, now they're so thick that clip is eventually, as the brake pad wears, it stays on that. But when they're so thick, that clip, that the way they make these pads, it doesn't want to stay in. I think that's for squeaking. You can see this one is off as well. And put that back up. Hopefully not scratching my rims. You can see it barely stays on, so we'll just stick that back on there. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so anyway, got to end the video because I'm getting tired and I want to get cleaned up so I can do stuff today. So I'm glad that went well. And like I said, I hope all this information, if you've got one of these Dakotas, helps you out. And you know, post any comments or questions. You know, I've done other stuff to it, put the tonneau cover on it and a couple other things. I had to have the original muffler welded back on. Like I said, I did do this. I actually rebuilt that caliper. You can buy a caliper rebuild kit. And I wish I had done a video on that. And because there is a few tricks to that. The actual piston inside these calipers is not metal, it's composite. And I kind of grabbed mine with a pair of pliers and damaged it a little bit, but I still used it. I took a chunk out of it. That's before I realized it was a composite material. And it had scrapes in it. You know, it's fits inside there, and it's, you know, about that long, about that big around, and it had grooves in it from going in and out. And I just took the same sandpaper. Not sure what I did with it. Maybe I left it in the under the hood. I think I did. No, I didn't. Here it is. So I took some 220, I think 220, lightly sanded it, and then some 600, and I used fluid with sanded. I sanded those grooves out, and I reused my original pistons, and they work fine. It worked fine. I only did one of them. I should have did both, but at the time it was cold out, so I only did one. But yeah, that worked out okay. So anyway, I'm going to end the video because I want to get this stuff cleaned up. So I hope that helps you out, and good luck with your projects. Post any comments or questions. Thanks.